in the book of Genesis, chapter 1 and 2, tell us the beginnings and the story of creation. In chapter 1 in particular, God created a world out of chaos. And the beginning verses was the world was formless, chaotic, and void. And the presence of God, through his spirit which was hovering over the face of the world, began to give order to the creation when the light came and God pronounced, "Let there be light," and things began to be put in order. And when we look at that beautiful narration, God made sure that creation is interdependent. The first thing he called out is light, and when there light, he began to separate the firmaments, the high heavens and the earth, and what is in earth. He separated the waters from the dry land and created the creatures that survive in water and depend upon water and water bodies for their sustenance and survival. And then he created vegetation before he put any living animal on earth, which will depend on the vegetation and land resources. And therefore, God knew the interdependent relationship between his creation and the living organisms that live within his created order, which is itself a living organism. And therefore, after putting vegetation and animals and cause the rain to rain and refresh the land, and the land gave vegetation, then he began to call out animals in their kinds to come, because they have a home, they have a place to depend on for their sustenance. And at the end of it, God knew he needed a manager, somebody to look after and steward creation. And that's why in Genesis chapter 1, God reasoned that it is good to create man in our own image and likeness, and to give him authority to have dominion over what we have created, as a manager to steward it and to make it better and good. When you go to the second account in Genesis chapter 2, we read that man was put at the center of a garden. And the picture of this garden is a life-giving ecosystem that in itself pronounces and produces life. The description of the garden are 4 rivers of body waters that give a hope to the land. There was a vegetation of every kind, but trees that are good for fruits. And therefore man was given the responsibility to tend the garden, to make it better, and to preserve it. So we have a mandate from God that we are stewards with him in managing the resources he has created. We get the picture in Ezekiel 47, particularly verse 12, but even in the beginnings of that chapter, verse 1, of this life-giving river that flow from the sanctuary and blesses the desert. And the picture there is wherever the river goes, there is life. And wherever the river went, there is improvement of the creation. In the banks of the river came out a forest that give produce every month. And the Bible in verse 12 says, it is food for people on a daily basis, and the leaves of those trees are for the healing of people. So the other aspect and component of creation is that it gives also healing to the human body. Science also have proven that from plants and other animals, we get all that we need, carbohydrates for the body to get stronger and heat and energy to work, proteins for the repair when we get injured, and vitamins for protection of diseases, and also for boosting our immune system so that we are able to cope with nature. Science have also proved to us that oxygen is produced by plants, and they absorb carbon dioxide, so it balances the atmosphere and the gases that are in the air, and select that which is good for us and give us in abundance, as it takes away that which is not productive for us. And therefore, forest and nature have a way of cleaning itself, regenerating life, and supporting life in a big way. And therefore, for this generation and generations to come, we have to go back to the Bible to learn how God has imagined creation to be interdependent. And because if one segment of creation is injured or destroyed, it affects every other aspect of life, because it is an interdependent relationship in all what God has created. We need water bodies, so that we get water evaporating and then condense in the atmosphere, form clouds, and then precipitation happens, which gives us rain, and the land is refreshed with fresh water that is separated from the salty waters in our lakes and in our seas. And God makes it happen the way he has ordered, and creation is replenishing itself on a daily basis. When plants grow and mature and die, they go back to the ground and build the biomass and create an ecosystem around where plants grow, where the soil is refreshed and the soil gives back forth with a high yield and high productivity, because it gets the nutrients it requires again from dead living organisms that give it the very fertilize the land in a natural way. So what God has created in an orderly manner works within itself to make life happen, and it continue to regenerate and refresh life, because it is life-giving. And therefore, looking at that from the Bible, from science, from natural knowledge, from cultural and community knowledge, we all can agree that we cannot live in a depleted environment or degraded environment, because we injure that which supports us. And therefore, the Bible calls us to be stewards. As I said in Genesis, man is put at the center to be a steward. In Genesis chapter 1, he is named as one who has been given authority to dominate. He has given authority for dominionship, not to destroy, but to look after and to eke a living from it. We have become so irresponsible as humanity with a quest for self-comfort or wealth creation to deplete aspects of the environment and overuse them in the name of creating a better future and a better life for us. And we are doing this at the expense of generations to come and our even own generation. And therefore, we have a responsibility, particularly this generation, to rework on what we have destroyed, to rebuild creation, that creation can be able to rebuild itself. And as I conclude, creation need little input from us. All what is needed is for us to stop overusing it and exploiting it, and also to allow vegetation and add more trees by growing them. And when we do that, more trees will grow by themselves, because they give seeds to the ground, and the ground give fertilizer, the soil that has been fertilized through the nutrients that they get from the biodiversity, then it gives back forth. And therefore, if we stop what we are doing in destroying our forests, in polluting rivers, polluting the environment and the air, we shall be able to build an ecosystem that is going to give us life, and it can drive itself. So all what we need is to inject a little bit of power to restore that which we have destroyed, and the rest God will be able to replenish it himself, because he has created an ecosystem in an environment that is self-regulating and self-regenerating. And ours is to manage that and make sure that we are not contributing to the destruction of the environment. May God help us to follow the Bible. May God help us to know creation is part of us. We are part of creation. And if we destroy nature, nature is very unforgiving. As Wangare Maathai said it before, it can destroy us and destroy us viciously. But if we manage it well, it will support this generation and generations to come. God bless you. Thank you so much.